Joy.
All right. And Friday's shooting was the deadliest school shooting since the February 14 massacre in Parkland, Florida. And unless something changes, unfortunately, it won't be the last. Joining me now, Karine Jean-Pierre, Senior Advisor at MoveOn.org. Lane Murdoch, founder of the National School Walkout. Matt Post, student and speaker at the March for Our Lives. And Karen Mallard, a teacher who is running for Congress in Virginia. Thank you all for being here. It is depressing. And I want to start with you, Lane. May I ask how old you are?
I am 16 years old. 16
years old. It depresses me, frankly, as a parent, that somebody your age is spending your time organizing school walkouts because kids your age are afraid of being massacred in school. That is incredibly depressing to me as an adult. So you instruct us adults on what it is. What are we doing wrong here? I feel like when Parkland happened, you had this big galvanization. Nothing, I mean, some things came of it. There were some legislative fixes in Florida. What are we doing wrong?
Well, sadly, there's several things. I think, number one, we're not listening. We're watching our youth, but we're not listening to them. We read the articles, we watch the news, but when it comes to the demands and things we're saying, no one's listening. And I think more importantly, the gun violence problem we have in this country isn't a new one. And yes, we're taking a new approach, but this is a very old problem. So we can't pretend that, you know, we're going to have solutions overnight. We have to keep up with this fight and keep with momentum so we can eventually get to the place where I do feel and we all feel safe in school.
Yeah. And, you know, Matt, in between the Parkland shooting and the shooting in Santa Fe, Texas, you're from Maryland. There was a shooting in Maryland. There was a school shooting in Maryland. In some of these cases, there's a school resource officer. That doesn't stop it. You know, we know that the one thing that these have in common is these kids have access to guns. I know that since the last time that we spoke, and you've been in touch with Reverend Dr. William Barber. You've been talking with him and some of the movement that he's working on. You're another young person, another teenager. What are we doing wrong? What should we be doing differently?
Well, ultimately, I think very little is going to change so long as we have a morally empty man in the White House and congressional representatives who are just heartless. I don't know how you can see what's happening across this country every day in places like D.C. and Baltimore and just do nothing. We, as a group, MoCo for Gun Control and Team Enough from the Brady campaign, are putting a lot of energy and effort into registering voters, educating voters, and in 171 days, mobilizing voters.
Yeah, and voting, obviously, Karine, is a huge part of the you know, a component of making change. And just a couple of statistics. This is 4 and 5 for my producers. Youth turnout, 18 to 29-year-olds over the past several elections. You see that seesaw. 43% turnout in the 2016 election, but back in 2014 was only 16%. They just sort of yo-yos between in the high 40s, high to mid 40s. Obviously, the Barack Obama election in 08 was a high watermark at 48%. You go to youth versus overall turnout, same seesaw, but much higher base, right? So that overall, the high water mark of the Obama election in 08 was 64% turnout. Right. So you have young people that turn out at 20%, you know, 20 points lower.
Yes, we need to do better, but I have to say, just listening to Lena and Matt and just seeing what the Parkland students have done this year alone, they are the ones who are the future. The young people are going to make this change. They've been really advocating and getting their peers, hey, if you're going to turn 18, go out and vote. And you're going to have millions of young people who are not able to vote in 2016 who will be able to vote in November. And since we cannot change the laws, like the Congress refuses to change the laws, we have to change Congress. So that is, I think that is the kind of the shining light that you see in all of this. Young people are engaged. It's happening to them. They're becoming victims. They're losing their friends, and they're saying, you know what? We have a voice. Let's use that platform. Let's take it to the next level. And I commend them for doing that, because the people who are in charge are not going to do anything.
And to that very point, Karen, you're running for office. You are a Democratic candidate for Congress, Virginia's 2nd district. That's the Virginia Beach area. You were a former battleground Deputy State Director for the Obama campaign in 2012. But, you know, the part of the issue here is that there is a voting base that wants more guns, more gun proliferation, and is very pro-NRA. I want to have you listen to a man who walked up to near where the Santa Fe High School shooting happened. This was on Friday morning, carrying a gun and wearing a Trump MAGA hat. This is what he said to a reporter who asked what on earth he was doing there.
What was going through your head when you found out that this was going on?
Get to the school. Make America great again.
By doing what? What was your plan of action?
Offering support. God bless you all. Will go a long ways right now for a lot of people. Thank you. I'm going to head this way. God bless you all.
Hey, thank you.
So, Karen, you have obviously a Trump voter, who felt that the response that occurred to him when a school shooting happened in his community was to show up with his gun and make America great again. I'm not sure what he means by that, but, you know, you're up against that in the electorate.
Well, as an educator, I would say that we need real solutions, not just showing up in a T-shirt. But this past week, I participated in a roundtable discussion with Virginia Beach School System. We had the superintendent, the chief of police, and we had community leaders like me, school board members, students, parents, and a retired police officer and an active duty military member there. And we were talking about solutions and how to keep our children safe. And what people need to understand is that children do not feel safe in schools. And the superintendent stated statistics about, you know, the odds of this happening in their school and staggering odds against it happening. It doesn't matter what the statistics say. Children do not feel safe in school. I heard what Bethany said at that table. And we tried to come up with solutions. We brainstormed and came up with ideas. And the man in the military said that the Navy has an app called Live Safe. And they have this app as well in colleges. And one thing that we talked about was, like, I teach elementary school, and guidance counselors at the elementary level work with children and help them. They have support groups. And at middle schools and high schools, that's not what the guidance counselors do.
Can I just
they deal with
interrupt
scheduling and stuff.
Karen, you know, guidance counselors are important. Obviously, it's a very important function in school, but you're from Virginia. Virginia is a gun supermarket. A lot of the problem that we have in New York with gun proliferation, I don't know why I have trouble with that word, is because people can drive down to your state, to Virginia, and fill up their trunk with guns. You're running for Congress. Isn't part of the solution here to make your state less deadly for my state by making it harder for people to fill up their trunk with guns legally in the state of Virginia? Are you for stricter gun laws in your state?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. That's part of my my platform is that I want to have a total ban on assault weapons, and that's why I took such a strong stand and stood up to the NRA months ago, and I will do that. But when the student earlier was talking and saying about no one's listening to us, I want that student to know that teachers and that I am listening to them. I hear them. They don't feel safe. Even with the guard at the front, even if you have metal detectors at school, they're not safe. We have to limit the guns. We have to stop that. We're an open carry state.
Absolutely,
you know,
absolutely.
We have the Dillon rule.
Don't I know
and
it?
Here's what you need to understand from a education standpoint of view. Anyone who carries that gun openly is willing to use it to kill someone. And you have to be willing to do that. So that's why it's a threat.
Right.
And our children can't learn if they feel threatened or they don't feel safe. You don't learn in that environment.
And we know
so that was one thing that was happening.
Right. We know in some of those cases that the shooter just targets the guard as well. I want to let you, Lane, listen to the Lieutenant Governor of Texas, Dan Patrick, yesterday, saying what he thinks the solution is.
We may have to look at the design of our schools moving forward and retrofitting schools that are already built. And what I mean by that is there are too many entrances and too many exits to our over 8,000 campuses in Texas. Maybe we need to look at limiting the entrance and the exits into our schools so that we can have law enforcement looking at the people who come in one or two entrances.
I mean, Lane, is the solution to have fewer ways to get out, fewer doors?
Yeah,
this is
Hold on, Lane first. Sorry.
Okay. This is a wonderful example of why the youth conversation that we're having right now needs to be listened to. Because the solutions that the adults are offering to us right now are completely avoiding the cause to this problem. If you want to justify a shooting based on the entrances and exits, you are completely missing the point of the years of gun violence that have occurred.